Mm. Read share. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar being presented by ESS BIZTOOls, How to Sell Advisory Services. I'm joined today by Trevor Marchant, and I'm just going to introduce you to Trevor. Hi, Trevor. How are you today?
Well, thanks, Peter. Thanks for the opportunity to share this webinar with you on selling advisory services. I'm not sure that I can teach everybody how to sell in the few minutes that we've got, but I can certainly help put the whole thing into some context and give a couple of simple examples anyway. So looking forward to it.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Trevor. So what we're talking about today is gearing up to sell advisory services. And what I'm doing is taking you back to what I think is the very beginning of making sure your team's ready to actually present advisory services. Accountancy and bookkeeping firms need to have achieved a high level of recognition as being an outstanding professional advisor to deliver advisory services. The Intuit QuickBooks SMB Navigator report for small businesses asked SMEs to choose a description that best described their relationship with their accountant or bookkeeper. The description headings were for three categories: key strategic partner. And this is what the SMEs were going to identify their accountants as. They are a key partner in our business and our go-to professional for advice, and they are extremely valuable to our business, for growth and success. That's the top of the tree, the key strategic partner. Then there was the valued relationship. We have a good relationship. They help us to achieve, but they aren't necessarily our go-to advisor. I don't know who those people go to. And then we got the transactional relationship. We have a limited relationship with them, and they are a service provider who provides a straightforward services and not much more. I don't think I'd like that rating from a client. Straightforward and not much more. I'm not very wrapped in the previous one either, valued relationship, because obviously those people thought they had another advisor. So the key strategic partner, I think, is very important. Let's look at the results of the QuickBooks survey. 15% of the firms they surveyed, and they surveyed 500, gave their accountant or bookkeeper the top rating, key strategic partner. 51% supported the valued relationship and 34% the transactional relationship. I think these are very poor results for the Australian accounting industry, because 85% of them were saying that their accountant was not a key partner in their business, was not their go-to professional for advice, or was not classified as being extremely valuable to their SME business for growth and success. If you're going to offer advisory services, and Trevor's going to be taking you through the steps to sell advisory services, I think you need to be aspiring for a very high rating from your clients. How often do you ask your clients how they rate your services? Be interesting if all accountants turn around now over the next couple of months and put those ratings as utilised by Intuit, QuickBooks, out to their clients and ask them to rate you. I'm sure we would all like to be rated as a key strategic partner by each client. So this is the background, I think, as part of the preparation to be able to offer advisory services for your clients. Before going to the marketplace, I think you need to make sure your house is in order. And at ESS BIZTOOLS, we've got a full package to help you do that. First of all, there's a training program. There's 13 modules which takes your team through the process, because there is a difference between supplying taxation return and annual accounts type work and being, in effect, the internal accountant or CFO, if you prefer that term, for your clients. Because in the first relationship, you may only be talking to your client once, maybe 3 or 4 times a year if you're actively involved in the preparation of their BAS statements. But if you're going to be offering an accounting service, you're going to be involved with your clients, I really hope, at least every month throughout the year, and sometimes more often. So the delivery of advisory services is looking for more knowledge, more skills, more patience, more understanding. And you need to make sure your team's been trained to do that. So the key components of the training package: introduction to advisory services. What's it all about? Why is it so important? The importance, just look at the failure rate. The Small Business Ombudsman has indicated that this is the worst year ever for small businesses in Australia. The failure rate's far too high. I think they need accountants and bookkeepers to help them. Getting organised, offering advisory services, team training, some leadership strategies, marketing strategies, so you can communicate to your clients. You know, one of the problems we as a profession have got is that for the last 40 to 50 years, the emphasis from accountants in public practice has been, we're here to prepare the tax return. Not much of what we now call advisory services was ever offered. I'm not saying no one offered it. I think a lot of firms did. And some firms did it and didn't really realise it was advisory services, or what we now call advisory services. But there was no total emphasis. I spoke to a young guy the other day who's well established now. 70% of his work is coming from advisory services and 30% from other things, including some taxation. Now, I don't suggest that every firm goes out and tries to achieve a 70-30 split, but I think it's well worth aiming at a 50-50 split. Use of the SME needs analysis is a document which we have to help you raise some issues with your clients, to start talking to them about gross profit percentages, about debtors days outstanding, about negotiating with the bank, so that they realise you can communicate with them on far more issues than just taxation. identification of the key products. And one of the big things is to develop your own product champions in your firm. I know that attraction and retention of accountants, particularly younger ones, is a big problem for the profession. I think if you really involve them in this type of work, you will find that both of those figures will improve for you, because they'll find things of great interest that they can become involved in. So the product champions, you might have your champion on debtors. So if someone's got a debtors problem in your firm, you bring him in or her in to have a discussion with the client to make sure the systems have been set up properly. Make sure they're indicating on their tax invoice the due date for payment. So we've developed some selling aids also to assist. We have for 19 years been writing a monthly newsletter called Business Plus. Now its whole basis is to include 4 up to 6 articles in each edition, all targeted at SMEs. They're targeted at your clients. And we vary them. We've got 6 main categories of SMEs that we've determined applies to the total industry, from people looking at buying a business to those who are wanting to retire and sell their businesses. And in between, there's a whole range of other activities. So each month we're trying to vary the articles so that over a year we write 70 to 90 articles targeted at SMEs. Now, what our subscribers do is badge that email with their own name, send it to their clients. They've read the email first, I hope, as we ask them to, and they then follow up with their clients and they ring someone up and say, "Good day, Mary, how are you? There's a great article about debtors management in our newsletter. Did you see it? You asked me about debtors a couple of weeks ago. Would you like me to come out of a discussion with you?" I think this is a very practical way of bringing to your clients' attention that you can offer these services. I think this will help overcome some of the reluctance that I think both of us have, accountants and the SMEs. The SMEs aren't quite sure what else you can provide. It's like they've gone to a specialist doctor and that doctor can only do one thing. I think a lot of them have got that idea about accountants. Now, whose fault's that? I think it's our professions and our professional bodies. They haven't been in the marketplace enough pushing this concept that accountants can do a lot more work and help the SME clients. Client mentoring and coaching. It's a particular segment within ESS BIZTOOLS. And we have 11 categories. I've listed some of them on this screen there now you can look at. And what we're saying here is this will help break the ice, because the series is on purchasing or commencing a business, which you'd only send to those clients, of course. Someone that's needing to upgrade their management skills, so send them some notes on introductory management. Characteristics of a well-run business is our most popular area, because we've gone through and cherry-picked what are the best things in running a business. There's not many businesses achieve all those things, but it's great to have a target that you can aim for. And then we've got other items you can see there: experience management, dealing with banks, business planning. So these are short articles you can send to your client and then follow them up. Please follow them up and have a conversation with them. Go and have a cup of tea or coffee. I find that's always better to do that in the client's premises rather than having them come to your office. They always seem to be on edge in an office, I think, an accountant's office. I think they're worried about parking meters and all sorts of other things. And we've got some material on giving them some ideas about getting investment ready, raising capital, crowdsource funding, equity raising, early stage innovation company, so that you are conveying to them that you can help them on these issues to run better businesses. The SME needs analysis I mentioned earlier, that's basically a series of dot points to discuss with your clients. We wrote it because it was originally prepared by Andrew Geddes at the Financial Management Research Centre, and with Andrew's approval, we've made some changes over the years, and he's made some new suggestions, of course, as well. And it's a great document for you to read before you start talking to a client. So it emphasises again, that you won't answer all their problems. I know that, but you are across them. And if you can't answer them, you should be able to find someone that can answer them. If you don't want to do research and development, for argument's sake, you contact someone else. And if you can't find someone else, you can contact me, and I will find you an accountant in Australia who can do, as a special contract, the research and development for your clients. So I think all this is very important for you to be aspiring for this key strategic partner status, so that your clients will be able to understand that you are at the top of your game as far as offering the services. Because I don't really believe you're going to be able to offer advisory services unless you've done this preparation. We're now going to hear from a man who can tell you how you go about selling this concept. I've given you some background on what I think you need to be getting prepared internally, but I'm not a salesperson, as Trevor will probably tell you. But I now want to bring Trevor Marchant on, and Trevor's going to take you through this whole area of how do you sell these services. Over to you, Trevor.
Thank you. Okay, folks, let's go from here. We're going to talk about a crash course in selling advisory services for accountants. This is just a breakdown of a new booklet that we've produced, which you can see there. It's a crash course.
It's not on the screen. Trevor, it's not on the screen.
Okay. Let me just
go. Hit share screen, I think.
Okay, I wasn't sure what you said to do there. Let me just go here. Okay, share. How's that?
It's coming on. It's there now, mate.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll start again. So basically what we're going to do here is have a quick look at a little publication that we've produced. It's in our library, our Boss Factor library, and it's called A Crash Course in Selling Advisory Services for Accountants. As I mentioned at the start with Peter, I probably can't teach you how to sell in these few moments that we've got, but I can certainly put it into context. And I'm more than happy to give a simple example of how we might go about selling services. I'd like to just sort of just go back and look at some of the things that Peter has just said. I think if there's a vast range of sales aids that Peter has got at BizTools, and any one of them can be a conversation starter. All sales start with a conversation. And if you've got an idea, like, for example, he mentioned the debtors management idea, I think that's a great thing. Those sorts of ideas are excellent to start conversations. So we're going to have a look at this book. We've also got this little book in the library too. Accounting firms are now using this book to send to all their clients. And not only are they sending this book, they're also offering their clients 3 months free membership of our Boss Factor library, which has over 100 publications in it on business, leadership, and life. It's just a great little lead generator, a conversation starter. And the idea behind this is that we could all do with a few more sales. I don't know of any businesses that, if you ask that question, could you use a few more sales, would say no. There are a few medicos that I've come across who've had enough. They've got enough sales, but usually most businesses can use a few more sales. So let's just go through a couple of concepts here. Firstly, advisory services are sold, they're not bought. Now, what I mean by that, if they were bought, people would be coming in and asking about them, but because people don't know about them, they're not bought. They're not bought like compliance or tax or those sorts of things. You actually have to sell them. So if you're selling some of the things that Peter's just mentioned, even a simple thing like, bookkeeping services, they need to be sold. Most people don't know about all the services that you've got to offer, and they certainly don't know a lot about advisory services. But here's the thing. People in business, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, like Peter, And I've worked with something like about 93 accounting firms to date and over 5,000 business owners through workshops and programs and things like that. I can tell you one thing that's going to happen. People who run a business will get advice. They will get it from somewhere. Now, if they're not getting it from you, they're going to go to the internet. They're going to go to their brother-in-law who's never been in business in his life. They're going to go to a business coach. Now, give you a simple example. I have an accounting client up in Cairns. I was talking with him the other day and he was showing me some figures of a particular client. And he said, look, he asked his client, there was a $3,000 an amount going out of the client's books every month. And the accountant asked, what's this? And the client puffed up their chest and they said, I've got a business coach. And of course, this accountant went pretty quiet for a while and he said, well, I could have done that for you. And the client said, well, I didn't know. I didn't know that you do this sort of work. So there's about $2 billion in consultancy management coaching in the Australasia area. And, you know, I think accountants are missing out on their share of that pie. So it's a good time to start selling, you know, these advisory services. Now, a couple more bit of philosophy. You can get anything you want in life, providing you help enough other people get what they want. Now, if you think that through, the more you want, the more, all you've got to do is keep helping other people get what they want. We'll talk more about that. And this, what I call the sales paradox, this is philosophy. When I stop trying to get what I want and start helping other people get what they want, I start getting what I want. That's something to think about when you're selling. So here's 19 truths about selling advisory services, and they're all listed in that little green book that I showed you at the beginning. If you want to email me at the end of this presentation at some stage, I will send you a free copy of the little book there on how to sell advisory services. So first thing I would say to you is nothing happens until something is sold. Now, I like to think about, I just need to read something out here because I have so many examples of this, and it includes you as well. You know, not everybody buys this idea, but we're all selling every day. We're all in selling, we're all in buying. We're selling something. If it's not a product or service, we're selling an idea. You know, if you've got a family, if you've got children, guess what? You're in sales because they you know, you've got to sell them on doing their homework. You've got to sell them on cleaning up their bedroom, and so it goes on. We're all in sales. But following this point here, nothing happens until something is sold. I just ask these questions. Would the driver of an international freight company have a job if somebody hadn't sold the products being delivered? You know, would the construction worker that you see around the place have a job if a site developer hadn't sold the city council on a new retail store? Would the aerospace engineer have a job if an account executive hadn't secured a new contract for commercial jets? And for you as accountants, would you have a job if the government hadn't sold the electorate on building more roads, schools and hospitals, and therefore having to collect tax from everyone, including businesses, to pay for them, knowing full well that the tax has to be accounted for and collected in an orderly manner? My point is, nothing happens in this world until something is sold. Salespeople, and you're part of that, you are selling, you probably give it another name. But if you've got, if you're in an accounting practice, you own an accounting practice, or you work for, you're already selling because people, you're delivering something and people are paying you for something. Something is being sold. Every business is two businesses. There's the one that does the work and the one that sells the work. If you don't sell the work, guess what? No work to be done. No work to be done. That means no clients, no cash, lights out. So think about that. Selling is, you know, an equal part of business. There was many years ago, there was a guy called Peter Drucker, perhaps the doyen of authority on management consulting and sales and things of that nature. And Peter Drucker used to say the only two real functions in business are marketing and sales, or those combined, and innovation. So every business, two businesses, one that does the work, one that sells the work. The truth about selling, people get, and particularly accountants. I remember running a course for some people in a large accounting practice, and we wrote on the board in front of them, we're going to do a sales course. Most of the accountants in the room folded their arms and pushed their chairs back because the word selling conjures up a whole bunch of different things. But we jumped up on the board and cross-selling out, and we put helping. We're going to run a helping course. You see, the truth about selling is it actually comes from an old English word, sellan, S-E-L-L-A-N. And now it's an Anglo-Saxon word, sellan, and it means to give. So if you're in selling, you're in giving. And part of what you do there, it's about leadership, it's about teaching, it's about helping. So give selling another name if you don't like the word selling. But that's what we're doing. We're just helping people get from where they are to where they want to be. Next, truth, no problem, no sale. If there is no problem, there is no sale. So we need to talk with people and find out what the problems are. If there's a problem, then that presents a gap. In every sale, there's a gap. There's where I am now to where I want to be. There's a current state versus a future state. The wider the gap, the more valuable it is to close the gap. So if there's, as I say, no problem, no sale, and every sale, there's a gap. Our job as accountants and salespeople is to find out what that gap is. And we do that by asking questions. People buy what they want, not what they need. Now you think about it, well, hang on a minute, I need some milk. Okay, you need some milk. Okay, can I list all the brands and all the types for you? Because we actually make a decision about what we want. You say, hang on a minute, I've got to get to work. I need petrol. Yes, you do. Do you want BP? Do you want Ampol? What petrol? You see, at the end of the day, we buy what we want, not what we need. Now, as accountants, we sit back and we look at our clients and we say, well, this guy needs a superannuation, self-managed super fund. These people here, they need bookkeeping services. So we decide what they need. But that doesn't help us at all. Unless they want what we have, then it's going to be a tough sale. A lot of people, and accountants do this as well, fall into a trap. And the trap is trying to talk people into wanting what they have to sell, as opposed to selling people what they want. It's a fine line. How do we find out what they want? Well, we ask questions. The key to selling anything, and particularly advisory services, is to get really good at asking questions. That's what we have to do. To give you a quick example of how to sell an advisory service before I go on to the last few points here, I was talking with a young accountant the other day, and he was talking about a client who was a tradie, and he felt that this tradie would be better off if he had a bookkeeping service, which the accounting firm provided. Now, he was asking me, how should I sell bookkeeping services to this plumber? And I said, well, the bookkeeping is just a means to an end. I said, let's just think about this for a moment. You feel that the guy needs bookkeeping. We've got to get to a stage where he wants bookkeeping, and then he's going to ask you about it. So tell me about this person. What do they like to do when they're not in business, when they're not working? What do they do? Do they have a family? Do they play golf? Do they go fishing? What do they do? One thing led to another after a discussion. We worked out that this guy had recently bought a little tinny, goes out on the lake, loves to fish in his spare time. I said, okay, let's just put that aside for a moment. Now, tell me about bookkeeping service. What is this going to do for this person? Well, it's going to take a lot of stress away. It's going to stop fights between him and his wife, who does the books. It's going to make the business run a lot more smoothly. It's going to make our job a lot better, and it's going to free up some time. Okay, so it's going to free up some time, is it? So what is he going to do with that time? Well, he could go fishing, isn't it? Couldn't he? So the whole point here is, guess what? You're no longer selling bookkeeping services. You're now selling this character on going fishing. And that's where the difference is in selling anything at all. What is the benefit of the benefit? What is the end result? We could all do with some more time, with some more money, and some more energy. When you think about it, that's all we've got to put in our business. We've got time, we've got money, and we've got energy. That's all we can put in. And what do we want out of our business? Well, we want more time. We want more money to do something with that time. And we want to feel like, the rewards are starting to match the effort. We want some more energy. If you don't get the mix right, guess what we get out of our business? Less time, less money, and less energy. And that, therefore, we come to what Peter was talking about earlier, about the issues that are facing small businesses in Australia. What percentage of small businesses feel like there's less time, less money, and less energy? And is this worthwhile? What was I thinking? Why did I do this in the first place? So we have an obligation here, I think, as an accountant, to find ways to help these people get more time, get more money, and get more energy. And we do that by selling advisory services. And the service itself is a means to an end. Take Peter's point on data management. If you got that sorted, what does that do for the client? What does that make them now feel? What can they now do that they didn't have to do before, now that that's taken care of? Can they do something else with their business, or can they spend more time with their family? What's the driving force here? Whatever the driving force, or we call it the dominant buying motive, that's what we're focused on. And it's usually a lifestyle issue. It usually has nothing to do with the business. And when you can get to that point, that's what you're selling. Anyway, let's just kick on here. What we're selling is change. Sales are about change. And guess what? People don't like change. So we're selling change all the time. You're doing it this way. We want you to do it this way. So we're selling change. But clients will like change when they feel it's worth the cost. And this is all covered in this little book on how to sell advisory services. Asking why gets to the client, gets the yes. In other words, the one sentence sales course is this: find out what your clients want and why, and then talk to them about how you and your firm can help them get it. Most people don't find out why. Why is the motivation? We tend to find out what they want, and then we start to sell on it. We start to pitch on it. You've got to find out why. That's the motivation. And the more you can ask why, you'll get to a yes. Sales happen when the future state is a better state. What I'm saying there now is that we have a current state and there's a future state. It's the promised land. The future state is the promised land. And sales will happen when the client feels that the future state is a better state than they're in right now. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Think about this. If people bought what you do, they've got 10 accounting firms in Main Street. They can choose any one. And then what you're selling becomes a commodity. It's just whoever's got the lowest price wins. Well, if you take on the attitude that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, all of a sudden you're lifting yourself to the top level. People are going to, this is about your passion. This is about what you believe. And once again, this flows over into advisory services. 13, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. Ann Kaiser Stearns, a philosopher in the US, said that, and it's always stuck with me. Think about it in terms of your business right now. Are you just doing what you've always been doing? Because if you are, you're always going to keep getting what you've always been got. This is the time now to move more into this advisory services mode. And don't see it as, something huge. It's what you do naturally. It's how you help people. 14, people do things for their reasons, not ours. That's just common. We've got to find out. We think we can motivate people. We think we can talk them into it. Well, that's not going to happen because they're going to do it for their own reasons. Sell with purpose. Now, what I mean by this is you can have selling goals in a business. You can say, well, look, we want to sell over this year. We'd like to sell, 10 self-managed super funds, or we want to do this. So we can have some goals. But there's a purpose over and above that in selling. I'll read you out my purpose in selling. My purpose in selling is to help as many people as I can get from where they are now to where they want to be, do or have, in the simplest, easiest, value for money way I can. That's my purpose in selling. So I can sit down with Sir Richard Branson, or I can sit down with Jack the Butcher. It doesn't matter, because I'm not trying to sell a product. I'm not trying to sell a service. I'm just trying to help people get from where they are to where they want to be. That's the key to selling advisory services. Forget about the product. Forget about that. The product can be a conversation starter, but you've got to get into a state where what is it they want to do over and above? When business is working well, when you wave the magic wand and business is working perfectly, what are they doing with their time? What are they doing with their money? That's the dominant buying motive. That's where we've got to get to. Sell with purpose. Last couple here. You've got to keep building excellent relationships. I won't go into sales philosophy and fundamentals. That's more about how to run a sales business. That's covered off in the book on the crash course for selling. Learn more to earn more. The more you learn, the more you earn. As you learn more, your value goes up. Selling is a part of everybody's life. Don't be afraid of it. We have a sales program now, an online sales course. Over 500 accountants have been through that course. And what we do is help them sell advisory services and everything else through that course. 19, I'll finish off with these, Peter.
That's all right.
Of selling. Firstly, you've got to have a positive attitude. It's like everything else, the glass half empty, half full thing. Thoughts turn into things. In other words, ultimately, everything that you see in front of you today, your desk, your computer, your lamp, whatever it might be, was once a thought. Thoughts turn into things, and it's an important part of selling. Behind every sale, there is a person. We talk about selling being a numbers game. Yeah, that's how you count. But every sale, there is a person. It's about relationships. You can get anything you like. I said this before, providing you help enough other people get what they want. A professional salesperson is a professional assistant buyer. In other words, when you go into a sales situation, sit round and sit on the shoulder of the person who's buying and look back at yourself. Be an assistant buyer. Would you buy what you're selling? Would you buy it? So become an assistant buyer. Help them make a decision. Deliver on your promise, naturally. Too often, we see, particularly often in retail sales, a lot of upfront selling, but unfortunately, the delivery is not great. We have to deliver. That just builds trust and builds respect. Always be asking. Learn to ask questions. The problem I find with accountants, and I've sat with so many in interviews, is someone comes in, a client comes in, and they say to the accountant, look, I've got an issue with this, there's a problem going on. The accountant says, that's okay, I'll take care of that, we'll fix this, we'll do this, this, and this, and everything will be okay. In other words, we're too quick to fix the problem. We've got to stand back from it a bit and ask, okay, what is the impact of this problem? How is this affecting this person? Ask more questions. In sales, you've got to persist until you succeed without being too pushy. Always be polite and courteous. Look to grow and learn, multiply your value 100-fold. And in sales, I've got to tell you, it's the highest paid profession in the world, selling. And it's also the lowest. It's the lowest paid profession, and it's the highest paid profession. You've just got to work harder than anybody. So thanks for that, Peter. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope there's been some ideas that'll at least make you think. I'm more than happy to, if you'd like to get a copy of that little green book, there's an offer in that little green book that you can share with me any problem, any situation that you've got in terms of advisory services, and I will have a Zoom conversation with you and show you how to sell it. So Pete, that's it for me, mate. I'll stop the share. Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much, Trevor.
Sorry about the glitch at the beginning.
That's all right. That's all right. So, do you want to know more? You've heard from a man that's devoted the best part of his professional career to selling.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention when I introduced Trevor. Trevor was originally the sales training manager at Westpac.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
right.
I never knew banks had sales trainers. A few things make sense when I first found that out when I first knew Trevor, nearly 30 years ago.
That's
But
right.
that banks had sales. Now, if banks needed sales training people, I think accountants definitely need it. And that may be one of your selling purposes, Trevor, that
Yeah.
might help.
Yeah.
So if you want to know more about ESS BizTools, there's our website, www.essbiztools.com.au, or you can book a complimentary Zoom meeting with me for about 40 minutes. We'll take you through the packages and I'll give you my honest opinion of the type of services that I think you could introduce into your firm. Not everyone needs to go to the financial forecasting package first up. That's our top of the range package. But for a bookkeeping firm, most should be starting with the starter package to get started. Accounting firms, around the advanced, and then move up. And I had a session with Andrew Geddes last week, and Andrew emphasised something that he's emphasised for all the years I've known him, and I've known him for 40 years, and that is you don't need a dozen new clients to start offering advisory services. Start 1, 2, 3. Just work slowly through them. Make sure your team's comfortable with this process because it is different to just handling tax returns. I found that out in my career because for 12 years I was in a public company as the chief financial officer and company secretary. When I went back into accounting, I really noticed the difference. I knew a lot more about my client when I was in the company as the company secretary than what I did as the advising accountant, basically handling tax returns. And that's when we started this concept of ESS BizTools. It wasn't called that then, but that's when we started developing it. And for Trevor, you can contact Trevor. They're your right details, Trevor, are they?
Just this with the phone number. I tend to just operate off the mobile these days, Peter.
Oh, okay. So what do you want to call it out so people know?
0416 13 81 85. Probably just off that, and with the email just trevor@marchantdallas.com.au. And as I said to you before, more than happy to share the little book that on crash course for selling advisory services.
Yeah, that's a great. Now, Trevor, you just want to repeat that mobile number again in case people have never got it down?
0416 13 81 85.
Okay. I think one of the most important concepts that Trevor said, and there were a number of very interesting ones there. I liked. We need to be conscious of the need to differentiate our services as accountants. Marketplace has changed. Just look around you. What's happening in every other business? Whether it's law, whether it's medical, whether it's retailing, whether it's people using the sort of devices we're using to talk to you today about. Everyone needs to be differentiating our services, and there is a real need out there in the marketplace. I think accountants have been a lucky industry over the years, Trevor.
Yeah.
I thought there would have been some changes around the year 2000, but they weren't the ones that come along. And that was when we went to GST. And what GST did was give accountants a whole new load of work to do. Now, that's been done now, and that's settled into the system, and everyone understands how it works. And we've now got these more current changes. The tax officer's making changes, technology's improving, and SMEs are screaming out. Please go and read what the Ombudsman's saying. The Ombudsman, appointed by the federal government, was formerly the Liberal government's small business minister. So, and then the Labor Prime Minister appointed him as the Ombudsman. I think that showed that he had great respect on both sides of politics, and he produces a quarterly report. I think it should be compulsory reading. It's on the ESS BIZTOOLS website. I'd urge all accountants to read it, to understand what's going on in your client heartland. We got the football grand finals all around us at present. They're the rewards for excellence, and we should be trying to help our clients, our SME clients, achieve excellence, running their own grand finals. And I'll just finish with something that I probably started at the beginning. I think we should be running an excellence in grand finals time also, Trevor, and that is how many of you can achieve that status that we talked about earlier, that supreme status that according to Intuit QuickBooks, only 15%. They interviewed 500 businesses. 75 said their accountants made the top grade. Not good enough. No one's picking teams to play this weekend in the AFL Grand Final on someone that was only performing at 15%. And no one's picking teams to play in the 2 NRL playoff finals this weekend either. They're bringing people back who have been injured and everything, but they've made sure they're back up to top fitness. That's, I think, the service we're going to be making to our SME clients. So thank you very much, everyone. And if you are watching this webinar in your own time that suits you, please don't hesitate to contact us, and have a great day. And we'll talk to you again next week when we run well, in fact, we haven't got a webinar on next week, the following week. So the 8th of October is our next complimentary webinar for the accounting and bookkeeping industries. Stay safe, and I hope your favourite team gets up in the AFL Grand Final. I'm not picking any teams in that. And hopefully the 2 top teams play in the NRL Grand Final on Sunday week. Thanks, Trevor, for your contribution.
My pleasure. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you. And we look forward to everyone being with us. Okay, thanks, Trev. I'll just end this now.
See you, mate.